Rob, do you want to say you're present?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Director Gettle. Director Keegley.
Here.
Director McKelman. Director Peterson. Director Prokopis. Director Silvestrini.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum, and let me ask if there's any public comment before the board this morning.
Try to make that comment now.
Pardon?
Make that comment now.
The motion? Yeah, let's wait till there's no public comment. I'll do it after that. Okay. I don't see any public comment, anything online, Harmony? Okay, then we'll close public comment, and Councilmember Keegley has a motion she'd like to make.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to change the order of our agenda today and move the financial committee and the item 8 and 9 at the beginning of this meeting.
Is there a second? Somebody second the motion. Okay. Councilmember Prokopis seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Okay, that carries. So let's then turn to item 7 on our agenda. Carolyn, you want to give your committee update?
Okay, so we have a lot to discuss on this item. Well, not this item, but the item 8 and 9. Basically, what we had a very lengthy discussion in our financial committee meeting this last time. And we were not only discussing, which is item 8, the preliminary budget increase maximum, the PBIM. We also saw a lot of amendments, which is item 9. And so rather than me reporting on that, we'll have that discussion here.
Okay, thanks, Carolyn. So that, I don't know, Debbie, do you have anything to add to that, or? No? Do you have anything to add to what Carolyn said about Finance Committee updates? Okay. All right, then that's item 7, I guess. Let's turn to item 8, which is the 2026 preliminary budget increase maximum, PBIM. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll get us started here. You're going to hear from Debbie. She's going to talk about the budget. We are already working on it. I want to remind everyone we're very early in the process. We're doing things right now that we normally and historically haven't done until, the April-May timeframe. But we are working closely with our command staff. We had a series of meetings last, was it Tuesday, with some good results. We're at a stage where what we need is our PBIM from all of you in order to move forward. As you know, we've been using 5% as a model to build that budget, and Debbie will get more into the details on that. The numbers on our model have fluctuated up and down a little bit, which is normal and what is expected in the budgeting process. As we get more data and we get actual numbers that roll in, Debbie's been plugging those in as soon as we get them, and then we're making those adjustments. But PBIM would be very helpful at this stage. And again, it's very early on. Any numbers you see or hear today aren't the final numbers. We haven't gone to that process, and I have yet to meet with or formally meet with more than half the commanders about their budgets to go through that process of refining what those look like. But I don't want to do that until we get direction from this esteemed board on where they want to be budget-wise. You tell us what you want, we'll make it happen. Because I know you all have your own needs and issues in your own municipalities. So, but we're prepared to put in that work. And again, we're very early in the process. Things have gone well so far. I feel very positive about the budget this year, despite some of the challenges. So I'm very optimistic that we can make this work in a way that will be stable and move us forward in a really good direction. I don't know if you have any questions for me before you hear from Debbie, but that's where we're at.
Any questions for the chief? Okay, well, Debbie, you're up. So I appreciate your work on this and the work of the Finance Committee. And maybe you can take us through what you're planning. And since Chief talked about them being some gaps, let us know where those are. And then let's, to the extent that we can, talk about scenarios. Let's do that too.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Debbie.
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you. Good morning. As you all know, required by Resolution 221101, we are required to propose a preliminary budget increase maximum for the upcoming fiscal year at this meeting. So you do have in front of you, we sent out a resolution last night proposing a 5% PBIM. The budget that we have right now is sitting at 5.66%. That has gone down from what was presented to the Finance Committee last week. Last week, it was 6.7. So we have made some progress, as Chief Mazarin said. So we're now down to 5.66. That will require a $420,000 decrease in the monies to get to that point. As I shared at the Finance Committee, the budget is based on the 70-20-10 shared service formula. We got the VEC assessment, which increased by 109,000 or 5.5%. This budget does reflect an 8.3% increase in health insurance, and that insurance is shared with the employees at an 80-20 split. So UPD's portion is approximately is 370,200 of that increase. That increase is 370,200. The changes in the URS rate, there was 0 for the sworn, and there's a 1% decrease for the civilians. Again, wages and benefits are based on actual amounts, not averages. We have made sure that we've tried to include all the merits going through June of this year. This budget still does include a 5% COLA merit increase. And so overall, this budget did go up by $3.61 million or 5.66%. If you'll go to the next page. So these were the changes that happened after we met with the Finance Committee. In the operational budget, we cut $4,600 in the records department because we're moving away from the Salt Lake County Archives records storage. We cut $400,000 in the tech radio department, computer components and radio equipment. We cut $38,600 in SVU VCU department. We cut of that 10,000 was to try and restart a unit on human trafficking, but we're making the cuts where we have to make them. 12,000 on training for 7 new detectives and a sergeant. We cut 34,000 in the forensics unit, 17,000 for cubicles. We had budgeted 17,000 for cubicles, but this year our staff has been absolutely awesome. They've gone out and looked for cost savings. They were able to find a company who was selling 25 fairly used cubicles, and we were able to get those for $6,000. Now, before that happened, we bought 4 cubicles for $7,000. So that was a significant savings, and we were able to save $17,000 in next year's budget for that. We cut another $12,000 in training and travel. This was scheduled to be in line with the strategic plan to appeal to surrounding communities. We'll try and work, another way around that. We also cut $9,700 in the public order unit. We cut $43,500 in the SWAT unit, $19,500 savings in utilities by moving to the new building. Granted, when we did these budgets, we weren't sure what was going to happen. We felt confident we're going to be moving there. And we cut $5,000 in ammunitions replacement. We cut, $11,250 in the K-9 unit, $6,750 cut back on ballistic helmets, bike suits. We cut $2,000 in training and travel, and we cut $11,500 in the motors unit, $2,500 in overtime, $8,000 by keeping rifle purchases flat, and then $1,000 in training. We cut $5,200 in the drones unit, $5,000 in negotiations department. So for an overall operational savings of $564,346. The capital purchases, we what we're going to do with the capital purchases, we have 199,500 in capital purchases. We are now going to fund those out of the fund balance. They are one-time expenses. That was one of the comments that we got at the Finance Committee, is that everyone is comfortable using the fund balance for one-time purchases. Not everybody is comfortable with using it for operational or ongoing expenses. So these are the one-time purchases. We're looking at $50,000 to retrofit the new building for forensics, which is sinks, drains, storage facilities, data lines, et cetera. For the SWAT unit, we're moving 55,000 over for a 5-year rotation of rifle shields, night visions, and Ranger sonar. We debated on this one, but it's every 5 years. So we thought, we'll kind of do that as a quasi one-time expense, and we'll move that over so that the fund balance will pay for it. The K-9 unit, 5,000 to house the K-9, and then the motors unit, 12,000 for the to house for a motor trailer to house 4 bikes. In the drones unit, we're taking 42.5 for a 3-year rotation on 5 drones, and 35,000 for a large drone that can move material and heavyweight items. So the overall capital items to be funded by the fund balance is 199,500. So, but between those, we were able to save, I think it was $763,000 out of the budget to get it down to the 566. Now, the shared service formula, we got the numbers for the population, the cases, and the property values. So not that this is where the discussion is, but this is where we can see, last year we did have a discussion on maybe relooking at the shared service formula, and it's really showing this year. Last year, Midvale took a big hit because their cases were high. This year, Magnus taking the hit. Their cases are up significantly, and so it is affecting the rate for the shared service formula. So you can see the rates there. You can see overall Slovisa was at 34.45. They are now at 36.59. Those are where your rates are standing. If you look on the far right corner, those the top rows, those are your shared service rate for fiscal year 25-26. And you'll see that when we look at the budget. Changes in the budget. The total budget is now 67,026. It's down 764.8 thousand. The city's share is 38.93 or 57.88%, and Slovisa's share is 28.33 million or 42.11. The overall increase now is 3.61. Overall increase is 5.66. That is down 1.4 from the 6.7 that we had earlier. Now, from last year, this is where you stand. Mill Creek is at 327, which is down 2.8% from last year. Holiday is at 5.62, which is down 3.67 from last year. Midvale is at 325, which is down 11.9% from last year. Kearns is at 999, which is up 2.72%. Magna is at 1023, up 4.12%. White City is at 601, down 41.75%. Copperton is 1165, down 22.4. Immigration is at 181, down 43.7. Brighton is at 676, down 21.15. Slovisa overall is 8.4%, which is up 9.31% from last year. So now if you go to the next page, you will see how that played. This one is what it was when we presented it to the Finance Committee. So you can see the difference in the rates there. Then go to the next page, Angie. And that's where you can see the changes there. So as I just read off, the changes from Mill Creek, Holiday are down, and Midvale are down. I mean, I'm sorry, Mill Creek is down. Holiday's down, Midvale's down, Slovisa is up.
When you say down, you mean the
From last year.
Well, I mean, it's still higher, but hasn't increased as much, right? Is that what?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay.
Yes, yes, you all still
We're all
have
still
an
paying more.
increase this year. Yes.
Yeah.
It's just the increase from last year. It's the difference from what your increases were last year. Okay. They didn't go, some went up higher than they did last year, some went down lower than they did
Okay.
last year. Okay. And then this is Slavisa's breakout. This is what presented at the Finance Committee. Once we got all of the numbers in for the population, the cases, and the property values. Go to the next page, Angie. This is the new numbers here. Okay. Okay, do you have any questions on the numbers? I will send this out and you guys can review them. And I do apologize, I couldn't get this early. I was trying to get everything that we needed to get in here. So I was here late last night trying to get these numbers verified and sure that they were all
So
in.
can you just go over again what with this proposal, what's the amount of COLA and merit?
So the
respectively?
COLA merit is a 5% increase. in this
5% total.
Total.
And have you broken that out yet or not? Maybe it doesn't matter.
No, it's just all, yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's just all combined into one.
Okay, but the merit would be done according to the STEP program.
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah, Mark, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So
Anybody-
go-
Anybody online have any questions? I don't see anybody unmuting, but
Well, I don't know if this is the right time to ask. My only question would be, one, I appreciate all the work that's been done on this, but I'm just curious if there's anything that was cut that the chief would see that we should anticipate as having effects out in the market. And as an example, when I looked at that VC violent crimes and the cut that was made to that department, are there any areas that we cut that you have concerns with in terms of impacting public safety out on the streets? And I think it would be there was a slide that showed the 400,000 reduction, the VCU reduction, various departments where we were trimming back. That would be it right there. The tech radio department, I don't know. But when I look at cuts of 38,600 in SVU and VCU, a lot of this stuff, it looks like it's just efficiencies. But I guess my question is there anything we should be concerned with in terms of cuts that have been made that we should be aware that it may affect delivery of basic police services out in our communities? Or safety, or we should be concerned about safety to our officers?
Mayor, that's a fantastic question. When we go through this process, these exercises, it's done closely in conjunction with the commander over those areas who are obviously closest to the problem. But when it comes to things like public safety, the safety of the communities, officer safety, that's tantamount in those discussions. And if it, like for instance, we could go back to doing our body armor program the old way or do things that would save some money maybe, but we're not going to do that. We're just not. So we have to consider that and make no mistake about it. We're at the point in the organization where we're very lean, we're very mean. Our people are adapting and doing their job the best they can, but any cuts we make do hurt. But we also understand that's part of the budgeting process. And so I want to go back and stress, especially from my experience of the past, that these numbers we're showing you are very preliminary numbers, and we can throttle these up or down based on some of the things that you're describing, Mayor Dolly, or if we think we went too far somewhere, we can add that back and come back to you. or maybe find other areas where we can get creative and we can figure out a different mindset or a different way to do business to make this budget work. So, but we're very, very sensitive to that. And that's the value of having those real intense one-on-one, like the meetings we had on Tuesday, it's the commander, their lieutenant, and we come in and we have just really open, frank, honest discussions about, the budget and looking at it. And, in some areas, it's even like, hey, let's just trim $500 there, or let's just take a look at that and have a discussion. Is there another way to do that? We try not to kick the can down the road, so to speak, on certain things. For instance, tech purchases. If you push those off too much, you can kind of create a logjam down the road, and we don't want to do that. So, but we talk about it, and we're very cognizant of it. So, and again, and for our Silvisa members, you see that number there, but we haven't even touched Silvisa yet. That's the next stage, but we need direction from you on that PBIM before we really get in and go to work. And we're already going to work, but before we really get crazy, we want to get that number from you guys. But excellent question, Mayor, and I appreciate you asking that, because that should be on the record. We're very serious about our job and public safety and our officer safety. So we won't
Yeah,
compromise.
I'm all for trimming this back as far as we can, but I just think we need to hear, and I don't know, because I'm not a police officer and don't deal with this stuff daily. We have to rely on you to tell us or give us an idea of where you think there are cuts in the budget that we should be aware that it may have effect on officer safety or public safety. And that SVU VCU hit my, kind of caught my attention, because I know those are departments that seem to be having more activity. So anyway, that's just my comment. And I hope as we get through this, you'd just let us know so we can make a wise decision about whether we want to cut in certain areas or not.
Yeah, we appreciate that comment. We appreciate the support.
Thanks.
Excellent question.
Thanks, Mayor. So, and I want to say, Chief, I think some of the things that you just said give me some reassurance. I hope that we're approaching this from the attitude, basically, that we don't want to kick the can down the road on things that will only be more difficult to climb out of a hole on in the future if we don't address. On the other hand, I also appreciate the work that's gone in to try to hold the increase here at 5%, because we don't have blank checks to write, on that, and it still is an increase. And the other thing that I like about where you're headed so far is that, I don't want to cut back on the hard costs of equipment and things like that, but at least with respect to the wage competitiveness for our rank and file officer, at least we're delivering to them a decent, merit cost of living increase this year. And hopefully that will be competitive in the market. I don't know if we know that yet or not, but our people are the most important thing, and making sure that we retain those folks by ensuring their compensation is appropriate is where our focus should be, I think, to the extent that we can. I know that these other things matter too, but and may affect how people do their job. But it sounds like you have your eye on that. So
yeah. Thank you for saying that. We could come in and we could give you a bigger budget request, or we could come in, honestly, we could come and bring this budget in like flat with no increase. We'd pay for it later.
that would be my concern. Pay for it later in a number of different ways.
Yes.
And we all in our municipal governments strive basically to be lean and mean, as you mentioned. We have to be, and sometimes there are compromises that we have to make that we would maybe prefer not to if we had our wish list, but just in terms of guarding the tax dollars that we all are concerned about, we have to make those kinds of compromises. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we appreciate the support we get from you guys. Just give us the marching orders and we'll get it done. So thanks.
all right, thank you.
Could I jump in for a second? Just a few comments here.
Sure, Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. Wanted to thank Debbie and Maz. We were preparing kind of for the worst here in Midvale and hoping for the best. And I think the numbers that we just saw fall into the best category. So We are delighted. We have our budget retreat later today, and I'm excited to share these numbers with the rest of our council and city staff. So thank you for doing what you can to trim the budget without negatively impacting services. It's much appreciated from Midvale City.
Thanks, Mayor. Debbie?
Yes, and also Mayor Dally, to address what you were asking also, I know that $400,000 looks like a big figure, and it is. But we did still leave $200,000 in there for those items. It's not like we're cutting them out completely. We're just relooking at how we're going to replace those and move forward with that. So, we're not cutting everything out. We're just making it so that it's manageable. And then on the human trafficking unit, it's one that hasn't been active for a while. We were hoping to be able to get that, started again. It doesn't look like we'll be able to this year. So that's the reason for that one. So those are just things that we're looking at, trying to not impact the service that we're currently providing. Going forward, we are still waiting to finalize the contract for the new building. As I said, the PBIM rate is at 566, and we're still looking at cutting 420,000 to get to the 5%. We will continue meeting with the commanders. We will be updating the new hires and the changes in the personnel transfers throughout the department. And we still are looking at other various options for this budget. The general fund balance, the preliminary startup building cost estimate right now is at 1.4 million. 315,000 of that will come from the balance of this year's budget that we had for the new building. It's not coming out of fund balance, it's coming out of this year's budget. We are waiting for bids to get better estimates. We'll be calculating estimated net incomes for each of the precincts and the general fund for fiscal year 25 year end, so we can get a better solid number on the ending fund balance. Compensated absences have been calculated at where we stand today. And so right now, our current estimated fund balance availability after all of these have been taken out is 899,000 after the 8.5 minimum. So I do feel comfortable with where we're standing in the general fund. Okay.
Well, and the other thing that, I mean, the import of what you just told us, I think, is that since we're taking some startup costs for the new building out of this budget, there is hope that some of these things might be able to be increased in future budgets when we don't have that startup expense.
Yes.
Okay, that's good news.
Yeah, we do want to keep a healthy general fund balance.
Yeah, we definitely do. I know what it's like when you have to pay more in.
Yes, I'm sorry. And I believe that's it, unless you have any questions?
Any other questions from anybody? Not seeing anybody light up online, so thank you, Debbie. Appreciate it. So unless there is any further discussion on this, we do have an action item with respect to a motion to approve the preliminary budget increase maximum. Look for a motion on item 8.
Mayor, could we have discussion before we go to a motion?
Yeah, sure. That's what I thought we were there. So.
Oh, I'm just curious with the other board members. It seems like, and I might be wrong, that everybody seems pretty comfortable with where we're at and the cuts that have been made. But based on what you're saying, Debbie, we're still, if we set a PBIM at 5%, we're still going to have to go find 0.66% or whatever that number is, 400,000 of additional
420, yes.
cuts.
420, yes.
I mean, would there be an appetite to set the PBIM at 5.5 if we're kind of happy with where things are right now? I don't feel strongly about it one way or another, but this is going to cause us to have to continue to go find cuts in the budget to bring it down to 5% if we don't want to have to go to a vote in May, back to a weighted vote.
So the other thing that we may want to consider in that vein, I know that that's hard for us to do, but we're talking about a new building, and there's always things that come up in a new building that cost more than you anticipate, and it may be easier to deal with that now and anticipate it a little bit than plan for a lower number and then have to go back. I mean, one of the reasons we adopted this PBIM concept in the first place is because we had an episode where we thought we knew what the budget was, and then it went up, and it was kind of a shock to all of our municipal finance directors. So it may be smart to do what you're suggesting, Mayor.
Mayor, I think our financial health of UPD is paramount. That's what's going to make or break this reorganized UPD. We're going into our second budget year. I would expect the chief to find some efficiencies and right-size the organization for long-term financial health. I'm concerned a little bit about Slavisa and the impact there without additional revenue sources for some of those entities.
So does that mean that you don't want to go to 5.5 or?
I don't want to go to 5.6, and I hope we can find that $400,000 to get it down to 5%.
I agree with Director Prokopis on that one. 5% would be my direction.
I won't object.
What, Rob?
I would not object to that if the other members feel strongly about it.
Which is setting it at 5 then?
Right.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion on that then? And I will look for a motion on the PBIM.
This is Carolyn. I'll make the motion to accept the fiscal year 2026 preliminary budget increase maximum PBIM determination at 5.66. And along with that motion, I just wanted to thank all those that came to the financial committee so that we were able to do preliminary discussions on this matter, and especially thank the financial administration for all the hard work you did in 1 week on this.
So if I understand your motion, you proposed to set the PBIM at 5.66%.
Isn't that what you decided?
No.
Well, I think
Oh, we decided to do the
there
other
were some comments about 5% flat.
5%. Okay, well, I'll amend that motion to
5.0. Okay.
Sorry, before
I'll
I
second
second, I was just going to ask real quick. So to get to 5 though, that's $420,000 you have to look for in cuts, right?
Yes. And we did submit the resolution that we sent to you last night was at 5%. We feel comfortable we can get there. So
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to set the PBIM at 5%. Further discussion to that motion? Seeing none, we need a roll call vote on this, Harry.
No, I don't think so. It's not a statutorily required.
All right, then all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Thanks. So let's move right along and talk about the budget amendments for fiscal year 2024, 2025.
thank you,
Last
Mr.
quarter.
Chair. So I did, nothing has changed in the amended budgets from what I presented to the Finance Committee last week. I'm more than happy to go through it all over again. For those of you that weren't here, if you all were there and you felt comfortable with it, we can just accept it as it is. But as I said, if you want me to go over it again, I'm happy to do so. So
Is there anybody that has questions or would like to see more presentation?
I just wanted to point out that it was, I don't know whether you'll point this out or not, but in the financial committee, we did discuss that many of these amendments to the budget have to do with the separation and the move and all of that.
all the impacts that we're
Yeah.
having because of that, yeah. Because we're
That's why we're seeing
learning
so
to
many.
become who we are, yeah. We're getting adjusted.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion to open a public hearing on amending the fiscal year 2024, 2025 budget.
So moved.
Mayor, I move that we open a public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Prokopis, seconded by Mayor Gettle. All in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, the public hearing is now open. Are there members of the public that would like to address our board with respect to these budget amendments? Seeing no one in the audience, anybody online? None online? All right, then I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Councilmember Prokopis makes the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Now let's move to Resolution 25-03-04 to approve the budget amendments. Anybody want to make a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mayor Gettle, second.
It's Carolyn, second.
A motion and second to approve the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget amendments per our packet and is presented to the Finance Committee. Further discussion to that motion? Seeing none, is this a roll call?
Yeah, let's do a roll call on this one.
All right, Harmony, would you call the roll, please?
Director Brems, Director Cardenas,
Aye.
Director Daly,
Yes.
Director Gettle,
Yes.
Director Keegley,
Yes.
Director McCalman, Director Peterson, Director Prokopis,
Aye.
Director Silvestrini,
Yes. Okay, that's unanimous. That's great. So we got through those things.
Good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So apologize to those of you who may have been anxious for the first items on our agenda, but we're ready to go back to those at this point. Let's hear a legislative update from our Heather Anderson, our government representative, I guess.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the sake of time, and I know I've been given 10 minutes, we're going to do a very high-level 20,000-foot view overview. The command staff, by the way, for UPD is absolutely incredible. I met with them every Monday during the session to give an update, answer questions. They let me know certain concerns. And then throughout the week, I was in constant communication with Chief Maz and Harmony about any issues that may be coming up or questions that any officer that UPD has. So that was incredible to have that kind of support and expertise. There were a few bills that, as they were drafted, would have just been devastating for law enforcement. And they were able to give me enough information that I could go to the sponsor and committee members to get those bills amended or just not even heard. So really appreciate your group. UPD's incredible. So thank you all. So I've written a larger summary that will go more into the weeds of some of these bills, but I didn't want to present it here today in case there are some other pieces of legislation that you would like to add to it. Currently, I have about 15 bills on my list, but there may be some pieces of legislation that you all as directors would like covered, whether it deals with municipalities or law enforcement or just general government. Please let Harmony or myself know, and I will add that to the summary. So House Bill 40 is the school guardian follow-up from last year, and it does a lot of things, mostly dealing with school districts and what their requirements are. There's a couple things that matter to law enforcement, one of which is that any new or updated building must have the required radio coverage, which will be great if there are instances where first responders need to be in the building. They'll be able to have radio communication throughout. There are some dead spots in some current buildings as is. Security glazing or ballistic windows must be on all entry windows for every school in the state, including classroom windows. That needs to be completed by 2035 in Salt Lake County. Rural counties have 5 more years to do that. And when the county security chief is conducting the safety needs assessments, this is the part that was really key for UPD and just local law enforcement in general. That needs to be done in conjunction with local law enforcement. So the onus is still on this county security chief, but there are some law enforcement agencies, thankfully none within UPD, that read the initial bill and thought, well, that means we don't have to be a part of it at all. So Representative Wilcox came back and said, no, We do want local law enforcement to be a part of that. So it's still keeping that onus on the county security chief. But if the local law enforcement agencies are not working in conjunction with the county security chief, we're going to come back next year and they likely will put it all on local law enforcement agencies, and that will be expensive. So I appreciate the UPD is working very well with the county security chief and expect them to continue to do so. House Bill 87 makes trafficking fentanyl a first-degree felony on a first offense with a 5 years to life mandatory minimum. This is just very important to a lot of lawmakers because there are so many fentanyl overdose deaths. House Bill 38 is a bill that UPD was involved with over the interim. It passed this year, which is fantastic. Among other things, it enhances gang offenses for adults using minors to commit crimes and also adults preventing minors from leaving a gang. So that's very, very important for all of our gang task force. Senate Bill 255.
Heather, if I can interrupt you, is there a distinction in the bill regarding the mandatory minimum sentencing on fentanyl dealing between adults and minors? I mean, minors are treated differently?
I believe minors are treated differently, yeah. And this is if they have what's equivalent to 1,000 pills of fentanyl. So this isn't your kid is giving someone else fentanyl, a couple of pills, even 40, 50, 100 pills. This is 1,000 pills. These are the traffickers of fentanyl coming into the state. Good question, thank you. Senate Bill 255, line of duty death benefits. So this bill adds dental and vision coverage for a surviving spouse and children if an officer dies in the line of duty, and it removes the 12-month waiting period to access local public safety and firefighter surviving spouse trust fund. House Bill 267, we discussed at the last board meeting. This is the public sector labor union bill. At the end of the session, Senate Bill 327 came out. That has a lot of definitions that just weren't covered in the original House Bill 267 because talks broke down. They passed that bill out very, very quickly with the first substitute instead of considering second, third, or fourth, which had some of the definitions in it. So Senate Bill 327 just makes it more clear and adds those definitions. That said, with both bills passing, the teachers' public sector labor union is kind of all hands on deck. They're proposing a referendum. They're getting signatures as we speak, so that may be on the ballot for voters this coming November. Let's see. We also discussed this last time, Senate Bill 133, the catalytic converter purchases. This had a lot of ongoing discussions with major stakeholders. Originally, it was a terrible bill that just removed catalytic converter purchases from the database entirely. It ended up passing, but with every single purchase of a catalytic converter remaining on that database and going through the extra steps and processes. What it did do is it made it so anything that is under $1,500 is considered a misdemeanor if it's a theft, whereas $1,500 to $5,000 would be a third-degree felony. So it changed that. House Bill 222, access to traffic accident reports. This one was a major bill that we opposed initially. The way it was originally drafted, there would have been a cap for anyone requesting records from an accident where you could only charge $100 for providing all of those records. And that sometimes can be in the multiple hundreds, if not the thousands of dollars to receive those accident reports. So we were able to get that fixed, remove that cap, so you can continue to charge the true cost of what it is for those accident reports. It does make it clear that an attorney may receive protected records with certain things blotted out, but they must keep those accident report records as a protected record. So the onus is on the attorney who requests it. It's no longer on the agency. Senate Bill 252, digital information seizure amendments. This again was a priority opposed bill, the way that it was originally drafted. It would have basically made it so that any cell phone or laptop that was seized by law enforcement would have to be returned within 72 hours. And that's just unfeasible and untenable. So there was a full court press, and we used a lot of UPD's expertise to talk with Representative Wilcox, who was the House sponsor. He ended up amending the bill or substituting it in committee, which got rid of every problematic piece within the bill and gave the prosecutors and law enforcement everything we need. So it passed out of committee and then it died on the floor. So it did not become a law. We will very likely see it over the interim and next session. So we watch it very closely and make sure it stays the way that it passed out of committee in the House and not how it passed out of committee in the Senate. House Bill 273, reverse keyword search. Again, this is another bill that started out being very problematic, making it so you could not utilize reverse keyword searches under any circumstances. Law enforcement knows that is a very valuable tool. So the way that it passed out, it simply places some restrictions where law enforcement needs to obtain a warrant in order to conduct that reverse keyword search, which is already best practice. Let's see. There's a few miscellaneous bills that aren't directly impacting law enforcement, but they do impact all of you all as governmental entities. So one of those is House Bill 300. You may have heard a lot about this bill. It was a very big voter piece of legislation. The way it was originally drafted would have been untenable for county clerks to hold elections. It would have required anyone who utilized a drop box for their ballot to not only fill everything out, but to personally drop it off. You could not have a family member or friend drop it off when they drop theirs. You'd have to go to the drop box, hand 2 election workers your ballot and show your proof of ID. They would have to check everything against your proof of ID with the ballot, and then they would physically have to put it in the drop box. You would not be allowed to do so. And if there were not election workers present, 2 of them, the drop boxes would be locked. So the way it was originally drafted, extremely expensive for counties, very onerous for voters. Thankfully, it got changed throughout the session. Basically, it just requires quite a few things, but the things that are most important is that there will continue to be mail-in voting. The original bill would not have allowed for mail-in voting. And with the mail-in voting, when you fill out your ballot and put it in the envelope, you'll have to put either the last 4 digits of your driver's license or the last 4 digits of your social security number on the ballot envelope. And that way election workers can compare as opposed to signatures. And you have to either re-register every time you get your driver's license renewed every 8 years, or with your county clerk that you want to continue to receive mail-in ballots. So you can continue it that way. The Dropbox office will still be a possibility. There won't be 2 election workers. You don't have to do anything, but you will have to put your driver's license, the last 4 digits, or social security last 4 digits on the ballot envelope or vote in person. Let's see, and that will start in 2029. So there's time for education of the public. Senate Bill 50, the legislature removed the $5,000 per year cap for special service district or special district board members. So if you serve on any of those, including Slovisa, UFSA, the MSD, there's quite a number. That cap has been removed. However, as board members, you'll still have to be very fiscally conservative and responsible. There will have to be a public hearing if you choose to raise that cap, but the cap is now gone. House Bill 64. Currently, public officials are required to have a fidelity or security bond. That bond is now replaced with a requirement for crime insurance. So that's for all government officials. So you as board members, instead of having that fidelity bond, you'll need to have crime insurance instead.
Mr. Chair, the UPD now has a crime policy that's much broader than the security bonds. We replaced that process about a year or 2 ago.
So you're ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
You're already doing best practice. Perfect.
Okay.
And then House Bill 139, government account amendments. The state auditor is going to develop in conjunction with other stakeholders, meaning the Utah Association of Special Districts, the Utah Association of Counties, and the Utah League of Cities and Towns, a form that your chief financial officer and chief administrative officer will need to sign when they provide their financial report. So that form has not been created. The original bill actually had the form in it with all of the wording, and it was pretty onerous. And most of the county clerks and financial officers we spoke with didn't like the language. So now it's just putting it in the hands of the state auditor so it can be amended and updated without the legislature's approval, but in conjunction working with those stakeholders. So just something good to be aware of. And let's see, the last thing I wanted to talk to you all about was Senator Harper passed a bill, Senate Bill 163. It deals with government records training requirements. So this bill is going to require that everyone who works in government, whether it's your municipality or unified police department, will have to have an annual training. You'll get to determine what that training looks like. You'll have to create a one-page kind of handout that's posted somewhere in your building that basically says what the records retention schedule is. So if you or any of your employees create a record that needs to be maintained for a certain period of time, that information just needs to be in a one-page handout or leaflet type of thing, and then a training. Now, if you have records officers, they're already required to do a training, but this is for the rank and file. Everyone, all the way down to janitorial staff, will need to have some form of training. And if they are individuals who don't create or maintain records, that training can be very, very simple.
Hopefully the retention schedule for the janitorial staff is very short.
We definitely would hope so. Yeah, so just be aware that that training will need to occur, and that will have to occur every single year. And then we are already running for the interim. So we have Representative Carol Spackman Moss and Representative Gwynn, who's the Chief of Police in Roy, and also Representative Tyler Clancy, who is a police officer in Utah County. All three of them have agreed to work with UPD and to run forms of legislation over the interim to hopefully pass next year. We're working with Chief Hoyle and Sergeant Rob Scott so far on 3 different pieces of legislation. So as those get drafted, I will present them in a future board meeting. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Heather? Go ahead, Carolyn.
The traction law that was amended,
Sorry,
the traction law, was that passed through?
the traction law.
For
Yes.
snow tires.
Oh, yes, up the canyon.
Right.
I believe so. I'll double check on that.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
And like
Appreciate
I
it.
said, if there's any piece of legislation that I did not cover today that you would like in a written report, please just let Harmony know. Okay, thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thanks. Okay, let's look at item 4, which is.
Mr. Chair, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Sorry.
Can I just interrupt? I need to say this. This is our one-woman legislative SWAT team right here. And I could call anytime, day or night. She could too, but we would say, help, help, we're being held hostage. Call her and she got it done. So thank you so much. I know you put in a lot. So I just had to say that. Sorry.
It's great that you're able to turn basically all the bad bills around. We're going to hold you to keep doing that. Okay, thanks a lot. All right, let's turn to Merit Commission policy discussion. This is Chief Olson and Commissioner Bertram.
Mr. Chair.
Thanks for being patient. I know you guys were hoping you'd get in and out of here, but. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, just one
Yeah.
correction. Bertram had to leave and we have the
Oh.
distinguished Manny Lassig who will be addressing that issue on behalf
Okay.
of the commission as well.
Thank you. So we have before you today, Resolution 2503-01. It is proposing moving some of the merit policies from the Merit Commission's purview over to the UPD's purview. Those specific policies that we are recommending be moved relate to pre-employment and probationary employees only. They do not relate to any merit employee that is covered under the merit system. And just to give you a little bit of background on how this all came about, as you know, during the separation, the UPD board agreed to adopt all of the policies that were in place when the transition occurred. That included the merit policies. And so as the Unified Police Policy Advisory Committee went through all of those policies, We identified these policies in the Merit Commission that we feel would be better suited to be under the HR's and the UPD's purview, just for efficiency and basically to make our organization a little bit more nimble when it comes to hiring and probationary practices. So as we went through that, we identified these policies. We took these policies to the Merit Commission and presented this idea to them. There was some concerns there. Basically, they wanted to make sure that the UPD board was okay with removing these policies from the Merit Commission's purview and moving them under UPD's purview, just because you had already previously adopted all of those. And so that's why we're presenting that today. The specific policies that we're talking about are policy 408, which is qualifications for admittance to, this will be new hire merit exams. This does not affect any promotional exam. These are only for pre-employment examinations. 409 is the sworn entry-level recruitment examinations. 410 for preference points during those examinations. Policy 412 covers probation. 413 is the rehire of former members, and 414 is the lateral recruitment plans. Commissioner Lassig is here. Commissioner Bertram was here. He had to leave due to a previous
Sorry about
engagement.
that.
So we wanted to give them the opportunity to speak to you, have them give you their perspective on this. And then I've also have a member of labor here.
Yeah, I wanted to hear from the labor group
To
too,
give you
so,
their
okay.
perspective as well. So
All right,
I'll
thank
turn the time over to Commissioner Lassig.
Thank you for having us. We do, as the commission, Commissioner Salazar, Commissioner Bertram, myself, we do serve at the pleasure of the board, you and chief and the employees. We appreciate UPD bringing over the merit protections to the employees from the sheriff's office when it came over. The merit protections are unique. They're, a lot of places right now are struggling with the protection of employees and what's going on. We're dealing with those protections that people had, in the previous or within policy of when you're in the hiring process or after you've been hired and are still in the probationary angle of it. I did 41 years with Sheriff's Office and UPD. And I'm only aware, I believe, of one person grieving something in a hiring process that went on. You'd get an occasional person who would, if they got terminated during their probationary period. But I'm not sure how many of those actually went to the Merit Commission. I just joined the Merit Commission last July. As the UPD with the shift gets, everything, their feet on the ground, Commissioner Bertram was concerned about leaving it there to see how things play out a little bit. But again, we are, we work for you guys. We're under the guise of the, or we serve by your permission in that, because you guys brought us over. The employees enjoy a real quality of protection through the Merit Commission system. And, we just wanted to let you know that we didn't want to make that decision without you guys being aware of taking that out. And if you guys are in favor of it, we understand that. And we support any decisions that you guys make on that.
So I guess my question is, do you have any concerns about moving this over?
Not really, no.
Okay. I mean, I hope I can speak for the board on this, but it was important to us as a board to ensure the rank and file, the officers that work in this department, that their Merit Commission protections and that process that provides would be preserved in the move. Yeah. And I don't want to do anything to upset that. If there's a reason to do this for efficiency and I know that it's a little different with probationary employees and things like that, but if you guys are okay with it, then I'd be okay with it. But I want to know if you have any concerns.
The only thing, the concern that was there is people who are applying for a job. Do they really have merit protections to grieve the, their hiring process that went, or a probationary employee? We don't want to open up a can of worms to where, and it's there, and we don't get a whole lot of input or a lot of appeals for a probationary employee being terminated. There's not really a big concern about, and we're just dealing with people that are trying to hire on and probationary employees. Once you make it as off probation, we're 100% behind protections of the Merit Commission and merit, those protections for the employees.
I mean, I could say that, from other contexts in my life and as working, supervising employees and all that. I mean, I always want to make sure that, that there's, some kind of due process, right? Even for a probationary employee, you want to make sure there's not discrimination and there's not something that's problematic. There would be other remedies for that kind of behavior anyway. There'd be a lawsuit remedy, but Merit Commission is one way to take a look at that. So if you don't have an issue with it, then we may do it. But
the sheriff's office, when, it was the sheriff's office in UPD, I've never been aware of a situation where they've done something really outrageous as far as a hiring process or, blackballed somebody for, not a decent reason. So as long as, that's what goes on. And the thing is the protections, merit protections for somebody who's in the hiring process or merit protections for a probationary officer until they are off probation, those aren't really there. And, we agree with that.
okay, thank you. I'd like to hear from Jaime Labor.
I had a couple questions. On the draft before me of the resolution, 414 is not on there. What did you say that was for?
I'm sorry, that was for lateral recruitments, or recruitments of lateral officers from other departments.
And I think it makes sense to move these specific policies to new hire and probation. Should any of these reside in both merit and admin? I see like probation. If somebody gets promoted, is there not a probationary period after a promotion that it probably should live in?
There's not. There's not a new probationary period for a promoted employee.
Okay.
And so probation would only affect
Only at the
those
beginning of the
members that are new hired to the department or rehired to the department. I also want to make clear that we are not eliminating these policies. We are simply moving them from the merits purview to the human resource purview. It just gives us the flexibility and nimbleness to change our hiring practices from month to month without having to go to the Merit Commission to seek those permissions. It just makes us more efficient. And that's the only real reason for the move.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Detective.
Good morning. So my name is Jaime Cardenas, and I'm on the UPD Association Board. We represent the employees for Unified Police, and Sergeant Scott Wilberger has been working on this very diligently with command staff, and he brought it back to the board, and we are in full favor of this change. It doesn't eliminate anything as far as representation. They still have that option. He brought it back, and I want to let you know that we fully support this change.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I have to leave. No, without objection, I'm going to pass the gavel to Carolyn Keeley to chair the remainder of the meeting. And I'll just indicate, I may miss the vote on this, but I am in favor of the change based upon what I've heard. In favor of it based upon what I've heard. Thank you. Sorry.
Any discussion? Any discussion? And I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'd make a motion that we approve resolution 25-0301, resolution approving the move of merit policy to the UPD policy.
Second.
Roll, we don't need a roll call vote. Do we?
No, we don't need a roll call vote.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you for having the labor here as well. Okay, so let's move on to the next item in the agenda, which is item 5.
Thank you, board members. Thanks for doing that. That's going to actually help our hiring a lot in terms of getting the best people we can for your communities. Couple quick things. I don't want to belabor this. May 22nd is our awards ceremony at 10 o'clock. It's going to be here on the 6th floor. You are all invited. I will ask Harmony to send out a meeting invite to all of you if you'd like to attend that. And if you do, please RSVP with either Harmony or your commander in your respective areas. We'd love to see you there. We're continuing to hire, train, FTO, push people through that hiring and training pipeline. It's going well. Sergeant Dawson right here is been going crazy and just doing an unbelievable job. So we're building that list and filling up those positions. I should also say that we're having retirements, which is the normal. We're having that normal retirement rate, which is great. I love seeing people survive this job and go on to other areas in their lives to go enjoy new adventures. And so I've received a number of retirement letters and wish those folks well. But as they are leaving, we have people spun up where we can get them into that pipeline and keep our positions filled. I wanted to let you know we got a sergeant's test. You have some sergeants that will be retiring, and we've got a sergeant's test that's ongoing right now, being prepared. We'll execute that probably in the May timeframe and have a list in June. Hopefully as soon as we can in June, because we're going to need to fill some spots. I should also let you know that we have an opportunity with the district attorney's office. They've reached out to us. They have a grant and would like to hire Sergeant Rob Scott, who's over the SVU unit, and use him for some training and some other things around Salt Lake County. As we evaluated that proposal, it's a zero cost to the UPD. It adds a sergeant position, and it'll be a great program for us to go out and support other departments. Rob's a phenomenal trainer, and so there's a lot of benefits to it and very little upside or downside. So
What was that position for?
it's a training position for the DA's office because of his expertise in special victims type crimes. He'll go out and be training other police departments and entities on some of the things that they need for prosecution, those types of things. So that is in the process of happening. I just want to let you know that's going on, but that's a really good thing. Anytime we can collaborate with another agency, we'll do that in any way, anytime, any place that we can, because it's good for the UPD and our model. Let me see here. Yes, and I'd like to thank you, Debbie, for all your work. She's been working really hard, sometimes here late at night on the budget. And thanks to the commanders, I met with the shared service commanders, Chief Dial, Chief Andrew Weirden, and loved the way that they came in, and all the commanders have been great. Anyone I've talked to is ready to go in and proceed with this budget. So thank you for giving us that direction on the PBIM, and we will get to work on that. Any questions for me? Great. Thank you. Oh, yes. Yep. Again, standard surplus resolution for vehicles as we maintain and keep the fleet healthy. So I submit that to you for your approval.
I will make a motion to approve the surplus resolution 250302.
I'll second that.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to note a correction on there. Second paragraph, board members attending. We're still listed as metro townships. Could we get that changed to city? Thank you.
Motion to approve as amended, the minutes.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.